The Building and Facilities Construction Committee meeting of Wednesday, January 17th, 2024 at 4:17 PM will, 4:07, did you say?
403.
4:03 will now come to order, and I'd like everyone to state their name for the benefit of the recorder. Shirley Mazinski.
Linda Brown.
Ray Klontz.
Fred Fontaine.
Bob Werby. Matthew Benoit.
Matt Wojcik.
Thank you, everybody. First thing on our agenda is a draft of the 2023 annual report, and I will just give, I don't know if you have our regular report, but this, I would like to make some recommendations. Cedar Street Bridge Replacement Project is finished.
Is it Matt?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we can eliminate that?
Yeah,
I have such a hard time with the annual report
that's all right.
because it's
Yeah, I know.
calendar year before the,
Yes, I hear you. The municipal building gym windows have been finished, and the public safety radio system has been finished.
Is it? Was the radio completed? Oh, okay.
You don't
That was
believe,
contingent upon the roof, wasn't it? I thought it had something to do with that, or was that something different?
but it's working.
Hanging in the town or something?
It's finished.
yeah,
Yeah,
public safety is done. The
Yeah.
only thing, if you wanted to update that, because it did cost us money, we did not go to the taxpayer, I don't believe, for anything additional. One of our mutual aid partners unilaterally decided to go to a standard, a digital standard called P25, without telling us. So then our radios, which were designed to work with their radios, didn't work with their radios anymore. But fortunately, we were able to make some programming changes. The fire department decided to do it, the police department decided not to, because they don't run with Webster enough to make any sense, but fire does. And last night, we had an incident where Webster came and helped us out, so it was important.
but basically, that particular program
The
was
entire project is
finished.
closed, yep.
Yeah,
It closed out in 2023, right?
yeah.
So you can stay in the report.
It says this project
Project
is
is complete.
complete with police, yeah, okay. Good point.
So we're leaving that one in?
Yeah. And we do need to add something about the municipal main roof replacement we're working on, right? And the fire station upgrade, HV generator, electrical, working on it in 2023. And also public safety and our highway department building project. The BFCC recommended Weston and Sampson, their first choice for this project, and they were hired by Board of Selectmen as the house doctor.
Well, we wouldn't really call it a professional term. What do you think?
It is.
It is, yeah, that's what it was in the minutes.
Yep,
Well,
that's,
that's because we said that at the time.
we advertise it using
Yep.
those exact words
Yep.
because everybody's using it as a shorthand.
Yep.
So it basically means you're Johnny on the spot,
All right.
so to speak.
And this is, this isn't the finish. I have a few notes I'll get to Jen, and then whoever wants to review them, and if it's okay, then we'll move them along. Okay? Do you suggest we put in something regarding ARPA funds? We have been talking about it.
You have, but it's the select board's bailiwick to
Yeah.
obligate those.
Okay. Yep. Anybody have anything else? Okay. If not, and Linda, you have anything?
No.
You're good?
Madam Chair, I'll take
Yeah.
notes on that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And if she's got any questions, just tell her to give me a call. She probably can't, no, she's pretty good at reading my scribbling. Okay, highway building project, Matt, where are we with this? We do want it to come for town meeting, or no?
Yeah, we do, and that's still the goal. I have a lot to report to you today. I'm trying to sort it all out in my
Yep,
brain.
okay.
Because I think this is the one project that they didn't make a lot of progress on because they're getting ready to bid out the roof.
Okay,
You know, we're in the cold season. I don't know exactly where we are with this because a for sale sign went up on the property that we thought we might look at, but then it wasn't put on the MLS. I don't know if that's changed or not. You have access to the MLS, right? It's not really an official listing if it's not on the MLS. Am I correct on that?
For sale by owner.
Yeah, it might be for sale by owner. I don't think that's what the sign says, though. In any case, I don't want to stir the pot at all. I mean, I don't know what the
that's-
tactic is there. I don't know if it's to try to ascertain a fair market value without a formal appraisal. I just think it's
Yeah.
odd.
okay.
There was communication from my office through the select board to that property owner, and I thought we were all rowing in the same direction now. Not so sure I understand the sales side, but I know that in the last update, I said we were paring down the cost of the project. I think that's pretty much where we still are. Still,
Okay,
one of the issues is if we do pursue that property under a theory of unique property under Chapter 30B, Section 16, there is an existing building, and some of us have suggested that might be a way to significantly reduce the cost of the project would be to use the existing building. It is a home. It's currently rented. Family lives there. But it appears to be in excellent repair. The thing about having just a small office space, the highway doesn't need a big office space, is, it has to have bathrooms and utilities, and all those things have to be approved. Well, if they're already there, why tear it down only to replace it with what, a newer structure?
yeah.
That doesn't necessarily make a lot
Yeah.
of sense. So, that was the last conversation we had with Weston and Sampson about that. We've been very busy with them on other factors, so.
Questions, anybody? Okay, well, we'll
It's January,
hope to,
mid-January, so we need to kick this
We
in
do.
the backside to get it moving,
yes.
to hit the deadline.
Okay, so we'll be looking forward to some more updates on that in the next meeting. Matt, if you could give us a status on the oil spill?
This is where I say something clever like, which one?
Uh-oh, you mean there's
So
more
there's no change to the existing oil spill situation.
in the
It
basin?
is where it is.
Here.
There's an additional air test that needs to be cleared, and I don't know if he's waiting a certain period of time, or if he was looking for the right weather, or I'm not sure what Pat's up to there. He makes it sound like it's not a big deal for him to finish it. He just has to wait a certain period of time so that his data is
Okay,
the same
gotcha.
time span.
Yep,
But since we're on the topic, last week this building lost heat, and the good news is that all the alarms worked. Just ask anybody related to anyone in my household or in Adam Furno's or anywhere else. So the alarm came in that the boiler had shut down, and upon investigation from a contractor, there was water in the fuel.
oh, gee,
Long story short, we called the LSP, the remediation agency, NEDT, they're out of Sutton, you've probably seen the truck around. They came and they used a stick to measure the water level in the oil tank with the reactive chemical that turns colors. It's pretty cool. I like stuff that turns colors, like litmus paper. I can play with litmus paper all day.
Uh-oh.
It turns orange when it hits water, and we had 7.5 inches of water in the fuel tank,
Wow.
which on the tank chart converted to about 225 gallons of water.
Wow.
So, being the Sherlock Holmes that we all are, we see the equipment outside, think, well, they must have banged something, hit something, punctured it. Maybe it was that huge rainstorm, maybe it all collected. And, you know, try as we might, none of those theories made any sense at all. So we are going to have this week coming up, the tank pressure tested and the lines pressure tested. We were up to date and current with all our pressure testing. It's only 2 years old, like a year and a half old. It was done at the end of 20, so 2 years old. End of 21 was the last time we did it. We would normally do it every 5 years. So we're halfway into the testing cycle. There is a theory that this is just a really slow buildup over time of water.
Wow.
And that, you know, the straw goes almost to the bottom of the tank, and once the water gets up to a certain point, it just filled the day tank with water and it stopped our system. We're hoping there's no leak in the tank that allows water to come in. But again, until we do the pressure test, we haven't seen any reason to believe that. All the seals are tight, all the lids were all on correctly. Compliments to Brian from Raynode, because he did some really funky stuff to reestablish prime in the day tank pump. And he got heat reestablished. And now we've done a couple of, you know, Adam bought some of that chemical that turns colors. He's been sticking in the tank. We haven't had any gain. We still have about an inch in there, because when we pumped out the water, we disturbed it and the water flowed in different directions. But so far so good. We have not had any additional interruptions. But we should all be aware that the data we do have is how old the tank is. It's old. You know?
Okay.
So there you go. The other piece of good news was the building didn't really lose much heat. So the rooftop units kept the second floor warm. The heat pumps downstairs in the police station kept the police station warm. And between the two of them, the heat didn't escape the second floor that bad at all. It was a warm day.
Linda, you
We were
have a
very-
question?
Yeah, so if water's getting in, does that mean oil can get out into the brim?
If that's the case, yeah.
And then we're back to square one again, right?
That's not square one,
No.
Linda. That's square -10. Do not pass go, do not collect. Yeah.
Oops.
So you'll be, the crew will be checking that out for further. Okay.
Now, as people will tell you, you know, there is a certain amount of condensate
Yeah.
every time you get a delivery of oil.
Yeah.
And now, would it amount to 200 gallons? You know, sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard to tell.
Okay. Anything further on that? If not, on to green communities. Matt Benoit, do you have anything on that?
I do.
Do you have good news for us?
I do.
He gets the easy
Thank you.
stuff, right?
So our green community grant was awarded for the finalization of the LED lighting project at the high school.
Good.
Received upwards of $35,000.
Wow.
And our utility incentive was updated and upgraded to about $9,000. So the total cost less incentive is $25,544. And we just executed a contract with Innovus Energy to start the work. They're going to work out the logistics with Jeff Collette, from the school department, whether they can do the work in February or April vacation. But a fully executed contract is in order.
So what was the price on that again, fully? 25?
Total upgrade cost is $34,784. Utility incentive is $92.40. The cost less the incentive was $25,544.
Thank you for good news. All right. Anything else on green communities, or we're good? On for another round, or?
Our eligibility for the spring round, this project would have to be done by the end of February, which it won't be, and all expenses paid by then. So we'll be up for another round in the fall.
Okay. Questions, anybody? All right, where are we with municipal backup generator?
So, you have seen all the work outside.
Yeah.
The electrical conduit is going right under the fuel line. So that's one of the reasons why we thought there may have been a kerfuffle there.
Yeah.
So it's snow now, but if you were to go out there when the snow melts, or if you saw it before it was, you got 4 big pipes coming through. It's conduit for the generator, and it's going to run over to the new pad. The pad has been poured and is in place. All the conduit's ready to accept the generator, and that's really what we're waiting for now, is for the equipment to ship. Now, we had an understanding that the equipment was shipping to some intermediate location back in December. So, it's built, and I think there's some, I don't know what they do to finish it and get it ready for installation, but whatever those last steps are. But everything's on hold until that thing shows up. And then you'll probably see a larger crane lowering that thing into place. As you recall, it has its own fuel tank. So the generator is going to sit on top of its own tank. And there's going to be a small metal catwalk installed so that an operator can climb up there and play with the gadgets. For us, the jury is out on how much of a sound break we might need for it. We do have a neighbor on that side of Municipal Center, and I just want to assure people who live in that neighborhood, we're not trying to blast you out. We'll add to the project as a separate project. We would go to town meeting and ask for funds for a sound break, stone wall, or partial covering on that side of the generator if we have to. But this generator is essential for this town hall to operate in inclement weather if we lose, or in case of an accident, somebody wipes out our power. In the short term, this opens up a fascinating requirement for us. It's fascinating from the perspective of one of the things that we're supposed to do for insurance purposes that we haven't done because it hasn't been convenient to do it, is to shut this building entirely down. Cut power and have all of our servers and everything else completely shut down, and then start the cycle up and fire everything up again. That's our cybersecurity coverage requires us to do that. So this is the opportunity, right? So the generator is basically going to knock our power out for a day, or a better part of a day when they do the cutover. So we're going to be down, and so we're going to take this opportunity. We're going to have people who are not necessarily the IT staff. The ones who would come in here and they need to follow that typewritten set of instructions that appear on the front of the server array. This is how you're going to start us back up again in case of an emergency, and we'll see if it works. We'll see if we can pull it off. Because I think once the equipment is here and the cutover is done, there isn't going to be much else to it other than that.
I have a
Question? Linda?
Yeah, as far as like the noise and that, I swear that we talked about that would have been part of the scope, that it would be building enclosed. Like, is this like a shed around it? Because I know what it is. And my neighbor has a generator. It's loud, it's just a portable one. And I cannot imagine those people living like that 24/7 if we had a large
Yeah.
storm. And also, I had concerns at the time about, the exhaust stack and how tall was that going to be?
So we moved the location of it so that the staff would be far away from the building. And that's the paramount thing, right? It'd be silly to get a generator that then makes it impossible to work inside the building because the fumes are in, so we're not, that's not our goal. I'm not exactly sure what we spec'd out for
I have to
housing
look at the
around it.
minutes.
I'd have to see the plans too.
Yeah.
I can get an answer
Sure.
for the
I
board,
thought it
for the
was
committee
going to be
for
Yeah.
next
part of
time.
I
the
do
whole
know,
project,
I do remember you did bring up something about that.
that it would have to be close.
Yeah.
And it may be one reason why they didn't specify a sound break, but I still think there may, an additional sound break might still make sense.
Yeah, but I would rather see it enclosed, not just a wall.
I'm pretty sure
Because
that-
sometimes just a wall will magnify the noise.
Right.
The other thing the installer said is you're actually going to be better sound-wise, putting it where we're putting it now, right next to the oil tank.
Yeah.
When we were back in that alcove, that would have reverberated
Oh.
off those walls
Yeah.
of the gym
Yeah.
and the,
That's why I thought it should be enclosed.
yeah.
Okay, so if you could get some
And
information.
maybe that's why, maybe that's the intermediate destination, maybe that's what they're doing. is
But full
sizing it.
enclosure, I think would be a better option.
Let's see what he comes back with, and then we'll,
Another question.
Yep.
As far as, because it's right out front, whereas the old generator was in the back. I mean, near the police station. Nobody's going to touch, anything back there, but this is right out front. Is it all the switches and everything going to be completely hands-off? Okay.
Should I do one of these? We're watching you.
Yeah, I mean, actually.
We have completely upgraded the security cameras in this
that's
building.
good,
and
yeah.
So they would, they point that direction.
Without divulging any state secrets.
Okay, I imagine they do anyway because of the door that's there. Okay.
All right, if you can get back to us with some information regarding
Yeah,
that, Matt.
playing with the switches on such a large generator might be one of the last things you do, so we're going to advise people of that. Would not be something you want to play with.
All right, anybody else have any questions for either Matt? All right, the next item is the municipal main roof replacement. Where are we?
So this is where a lot of our activity with Weston and Sampson has been. They're
Yeah.
finalizing, I signed basically their fee notice. So we're getting ready to go out to bid. So they're going from whatever you want to call it, 70% design to 100%,
Okay,
and construction plans, and resolve the number of the smaller details. From the perspective of the job, it's one of the smaller details. From the perspective as a person who works in the building, it's the most important one. It's what are you going to do about all the ice that falls over the door that we all use to get in and out of the building? So all of that's been worked out, and I think we're in a good spot. This should be up to bid, I want to say, but by the time you meet again, we should be live.
hope so. Yeah. Okay. And the municipal fire alarm is still on hold, if I'm not mistaken, until the roof is done. Fire station upgrade, HVAC, generator, electrical, still ongoing.
So, yeah, it's still ongoing, but we had more progress this week. I had a conversation with Bruce McRitchie. They're entering final design. In their case, if you remember your site visit to the fire station, you know that back corner of the building
Yep,
is the mechanical room,
yep,
the very large commercial boiler, and tanks. The tanks are going to be moved outside, so we're going to have a rectangular tank that will sit in between the building and the new generator. Both the generator and the building will draw from that tank for fuel. the space that is freed up in that room will now be where all the electrical equipment's going to go to upgrade the building, including the switches for the generator outside. There just wasn't any other place to put this stuff.
Yeah.
And the commercial grade boiler is going to be significantly downsized. It's still going to be, obviously, a commercial building, so it's still going to be a little bit more of a heavy duty. But if you recall, you probably saw that really large exhaust fan in the bays. And I think the assistant chief said something to the effect, I don't even know the last time that was turned on, and it was disconnected somewhere, so it doesn't turn on. When the building was designed and that heat plant was designed for the building, it was designed to heat all of the makeup air that came into the building as a result of that huge fan sucking all the contaminated air out. Now that we use the MagnaGrip and we put that fitting right over the exhaust of the trucks, we don't need to evacuate all the air in the bays. So we won't be reheating all that air, so that enormous amount of thermal mass that's created in that boiler isn't necessary anymore, so we're going to go with a smaller unit. So it should be way more efficient than the thing that we have now, which just roars through fuel. So that's exciting and interesting. So what will your fire station look like when we're done? When you come through the door, right now you have a day room to your left, which has a table and a TV and mostly open space and all the, the patches and all the meeting stuff. Right now, we have some of that broken up now into cubicles so that people have a place to work because they're not using the upstairs while we go through this air contamination issue. The day room is going to become the quarters. So that's where they're going to sleep, get their rest periods. And so, we're going to lose some of the functionality of the day room, but it's also going to help us sequester the air and move the air around where it needs to be moved and exhaust air where it needs to be exhausted. And then you're outside, you're going to see a larger generator than we have now, a fuel tank. And the mechanical room will be mostly electrical equipment and the boiler. All right, so those are,
And,
so McRitchie's finished, Weston and Sampson has finished the architectural work.
okay,
So McRitchie is now finalizing the electrical plan to accommodate all the new walls and where they've been set up. And once they're done with that, we'll have a bid package. Again, this goal was for the summer. This is an ARPA-funded project, so we need to commit the funds by December. But we want to be way ahead of that.
so are there trailers still there?
Yep.
And what are they being used for?
You sure you want me to answer that on a public meeting?
It's that bad?
It's not that bad. That's where the sleeping quarters are right now.
Okay, well, that's what I thought. But now you're moving them out of the trailers and into the,
Yeah, once the project's done, the trailers will go away,
okay,
and people will move back inside.
okay. Questions, anybody? Okay, thank you. Stormwater management. This was a new item that was brought up at our last meeting.
Somebody noticed. And took offense to nothing. So I don't really know. We're going to address the issue with the select board tomorrow night and address some of the comments that have been made, unfortunate and misguided comments that have been made. Just to remind people, the town submitted to town meeting a stormwater management plan in 2019. It went to town meeting
Yeah.
where it was voted down.
That's that NIPD's.
It was everything,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going to take a walk down memory lane and just remind people of who said what. because that's kind of an important document, and it's, the failure to have a plan in place has put us in the spot where the responsibility for this issue is now divvied up amongst so many parties that it's confusing to the constituent or to the resident of the town who wants relief from a situation that is developed, because really, stormwater on the road is the select board's responsibility. Stormwater into a protected wetland resource is the Concom's responsibility. And how do we fill in, I'm glad Matt's here, because he's going to rescue me any second now. Stormwater that should have been managed on site as part of site plan review before the planning board goes where, and who's responsible for that enforcement.
I have
So,
a question.
What implicates this committee, though, is the facilities that we build to manage stormwater, not other people's problems.
Just
but-
town stormwater. management.
Correct. Once it becomes our problem, that's what I want to be discussed here. I know we kind of got off on that other topic for last meeting.
No, I watched it, and it was all about just the town, the
Yeah.
water sewer treatment plant,
That's where we really,
stormwater, the gutters.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Wasn't
what
about
the
personal.
focus of this committee's activity, because that's what we would be going out to borrow money for, or to raise money to do, and maintain as an ongoing responsibility. So maybe stormwater management, maybe we can put in parentheses, MS4, because that's the piece. Our catch basins and our pipes, and the plan that we have, we'll clean them out every year, we maintain, we reconstruct, we're capturing their locations in GPS and putting that into our GIS system here in town to know, so we know where they are. That is something that I think is in the bailiwick of this committee,
I,
because we've already spent a lot of money on this.
and the MS4, general permit was signed by you in September of 18. So that's still good,
Yes,
doesn't it?
we are in compliance with what we said we were going to do. You know, one of the biggest lifts there is at the highway department. This is one of the unsung activities of the highway department. It's actually quite a bit of work for them, is to clean out all of these basins every year. And this year especially, it's going to be challenging, because there's going to be all kinds of silt and other things from these major storms that's settled into our catch basins. We clean them out once a year, and we have the specialty equipment for it. The town bought it. You'll recall that you bought a stormwater catch basin cleaner at the same time as you bought engine 3, I think on the same borrowing. So you have to train somebody special to operate that thing, and then you have to manage what you dig up out of your basins. When I started here, we were kind of putting it in a place where we weren't supposed to. Now we have a bill of lading that all of our tailings from our catch basins are disposed of at a licensed site. So they're not in town.
Questions?
And whatever we knew from the past, we took it gradually and mixed it with the rest that were being sent to that licensed facility. So as far as we know, we don't have any tailings anywhere.
Questions?
Yes, so where do we go from here?
So I think our-
Watching the last meeting, are we going to be part of this or not?
I think it is a decision for town meeting and for your policy-making boards, what level of priority stormwater management and how much we're going to invest on each major roadway that is damaged considerably by stormwater runoff. I don't want to go this far to say that it's a utility, but it's a significant function of the town. People are starting to realize the more homes get built and the more cover that we take off,
Yeah.
you're going to have more problems in your streets. The number one issue with stormwater is that in a weather like this, where we go 40 degrees, 20 degrees, 40 degrees, 20, it's nature's jackhammer. and it blows through pavement like nobody's business, to have all this water on the edge of the street or percolating it through cracks in the street. We've been crack sealing religiously according to the plan that was provided to us by Stantec. So we're on top of our crack sealing schedule, but we still have roads. I mean, West Street is an obvious example. Northeast Main is another example. Smaller roads like Johnson Court, where we have really significant stormwater management issues. The water gets under the road and pops it into a million pieces. It makes no sense to spend $500,000 reclaiming and paving a road only to have the stormwater sit back on top of it and wreck it again. So as we go along and prioritize the major thoroughfares of the town for repaving or reclamation, we've got to be mindful of where we're putting all that water and not leave it on the street. It's not an easy issue because it's got to go somewhere. And once you channel it and give it all that velocity, it's in a pipe. It's moving pretty, but there's a lot of force, so we have to figure out where it's going to go. It's not just a matter of collecting it. That's once you collect it, you have to do something with it. And that's been a challenge for some of our projects in town.
I did take a ride down South Street yesterday, not the day before, and I noticed that what had been fixed was fine. It was draining into the gutters, but just before you got to that section, wow, it was horrible. I had to slow down to a crawl because it had iced up into the street. So I don't know if it's because people's driveways were blocking off the gutters because there weren't pipes going under the driveway.
I don't want to venture a guess. There were some, memory serves me, I'm looking at you again, he's not helping me. It's like, you're sending me a life-saving ring made out of rebar. But if I'm correct, what's the name of that? Thomas Circle.
The abandoned zone.
On the north side of the Thomas Circle, there's a catch basin.
Yeah.
There's actually 2 or 3 that are connected to each other, and they don't discharge anywhere. So if those are full, and if they're overwhelmed, it's into the street it goes. And whether it makes it back into the work we just did or not, I'm sure there's a fraction that does, but a large fraction that doesn't.
On a bad curve too.
Yeah. It's a water balloon, so as soon as we squeeze in one place, it comes out in another.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, anybody else? Do you want to take on this stormwater management, or
So
like,
This is more of a reporting thing for us. We don't have any projects, Madam Chair.
and why should it come through here?
yeah.
So it's a facility of the town. So, I mean, this is one of those gray areas, right?
Yeah,
This committee decided it wanted to be apprised of the Cedar Street Bridge project. That's a public works project. So one could argue it wasn't really in your bailiwick at all, because it's not a building, it's a bridge. One could argue public safety radio, despite an antenna or 2 being put up, was really a Chapter 30B procurement, which is entirely my bailiwick, not yours. I don't operate that way in silos. I would rather communicate. If I don't have a good outlet for communication with the public any other way, you're doing me a favor by keeping it on your agenda so that we can talk about it. Outside of the individual project-based conversations about stormwater that might occur at zoning or at planning or Concom. Right?
But at a personal, private property level, that's what
That's where those things
reports
happen,
come,
right.
Yeah.
But I don't feel strongly about it. I think it's up to your committee, Madam Chair, to determine. But MS4 really is, in terms of what it would cost to replace everything that we already have built as a town, going all the way back to Schuster's days, right? is millions and millions of dollars worth of infrastructure. You just don't see it, it's under the ground, but it's there.
Well, I like, to see things carried through if we're going to have it, and this is my own personal opinion, if we're going to have it under our bailiwick, then to me, it needs to get done. But I cannot see something like this having even a chance without an engineer, without the highway being involved. It just isn't going to work, in my opinion. We need to do a lot of work on this.
But it would just be like a bylaw in the town?
No, that's not what I'm
No.
talking about here.
I mean, just to
Like
report
to
through it.
reiterate, there are no projects currently slated.
Yeah.
We use Stantec for these projects, so there's pretty substantial engineering inputs. The idea of having it as something that's in your mandate would be when we do talk about either expanding the system or having to upgrade the system somewhere, what is the vehicle for talking about it? Now, the other angle here is to say, well, isn't that really just the select board's role as highway commissioners, because that is management of stormwater on the roadways is the completely dominated the field. The select board dominates, that's their thing. I just twisted a bunch of concepts into a nonsense sentence. The select board is in charge of the highways of the town. So to the extent that drainage involves the roadways, nothing will really change the fact that they're supposed to be dealing with that. I have an asset class without an owner. If you don't want to own it, that's fine.
It's up to this board, but this is my own personal feeling. I think we need things involved that haven't been involved.
Like
Some of the-
Like, for instance, I mean, I'm still lost, like you said, there's no current projects. But what,
Well, the most recent example would have been the South Street, right? That's,
Right.
yeah.
oh, okay.
So it's $1 million.
Now, how about the
The
Depot
drainage piece
Street
wasn't the full million.
that's coming up, the Depot Street that's coming up?
But that involves the town hall, so that's what,
Yeah.
because of the project would involve that. So I think that's why we would be more
Yeah,
involved in that.
a building.
Well,
Yeah.
I had no
But Depot-
thought that we would even be considered to be involved in that.
Right.
Well, it's under ARPA funds, and Matt has been keeping us updated with what it's being spent for, and...
But that was only under the ARPA funds, all the ARPA funds. But now that that money's all been distributed, certain projects, that's off our radar.
projects haven't
They
been
haven't
done
been
yet.
done, but
And that's what
off
we
our
look-
radar now.
Yeah,
No,
so when
well-
it comes to Depot Street, the wheels are spinning in my head because that's a complicated project. It is primarily a water project. So we will pull old water pipe out and replace it with modern facility.
Facility.
Modern, I shouldn't use facility, modern implements, modern components, right? New pipes, new fittings. The course of the project is going to take us over a culvert that needs to be repaired. An old historic culvert that's a dry stack. And there will be a designer selection component to that. Right, because, and that must be engineered, and especially since we have a sewer pipe that goes through the culvert, we really don't want to mess it up. To my best understanding of the way water flows on Depot, we haven't really a major stormwater issue on Depot. the water, the road is actually in very good condition precisely because it's crowned, you have granite curbs, you have lots of catch basins on both sides, and the water is being directed to its final destination. It doesn't back up.
But
Great.
you have a Cottage Street that had problems, mainly because there's beaver up the road.
Leave it to Beaver.
Yes, which ended up in some people's cellars, which wasn't, especially in the museum. But anyhow, there are areas, yeah.
So it all depends on what the selectmen feel that we should look at? Or pick and
This wasn't
choose?
their idea, was it? No, it was yours.
Yeah, because
I
I always
just-
wondered why we were never involved in the highways stuff or the water sewer department.
Yeah, we are involved in the highway stuff. We're trying to get them a new bill, or
Well, we
work
weren't
on it.
involved in the South Street.
Roadways.
Yeah.
I think-
Roadways, except the bridge.
Right, because the interpretation of your mandate could go either way.
Yeah.
I think you could make an argument that this committee was, if I understand correctly, and you, I'm sure the chair will correct me if I'm wrong, but this committee was largely designed to make sure that the procurement process and other steps were being followed by the then administration of the town for the benefit of a couple of things, transparency, and just to make sure that we didn't all of a sudden end up with a roof on a school building that nobody knew about. Am I hitting that correctly? But that there needed to be some prioritization and planning, and not just willy-nilly whatever it was the procurement officer decided to buy that day. So there's a time and a place for dialogue about management of public funds.
Well, it's not only
It doesn't
that,
have to be here.
but it was because people were upset about, oh, every time you turn around, there's a new school committee, a new school building committee, and it was so-called permanent building committee. But the school still had to have a building committee. So that's where that was at. So again, I mean, my own opinion. If we had, maybe I would reconsider it, but in my own self, I mean, whatever the board wants to do, fine, you want to wait on it, but I do not, in the recent weeks, with engineers and reports not getting read,
In regards to,
stormwater management.
yeah, but that's not what we're here for. That's a personal project. That's a private party. That's not, nothing to do
It
with
doesn't,
the town.
it's now into some,
But it's not something our highway department
No.
is building.
no,
Or the water sewer
No.
treatment plant is building.
no, nope. I still think we need a town engineer to oversee what's going on with all this stuff. But you want to talk about it, you want to go ahead with it,
With the town side.
yeah. You want to take this on, or you want to think about it and come up with more questions, or get more input. You can get more input, that's fine. How do other towns do it? Talk to me.
I think we should get our feet wet with it. You know, the next project that comes along, we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think being privy to it, similar to what the South Street, that
Yeah.
construction was, being privy to it and being involved in it, or at least having some sort of yay or nay in it,
I don't-
I think it's still important, or,
I don't think we had any involvement.
no,
No, we
no, we
didn't.
didn't.
No. No. It's
Or at least
it's
it was
basically
before
the
my time.
highway department that's working on that.
Yeah, and that was a good type of project.
Yeah.
Or like the Depot Street one that's coming up. I mean, I can't see why we shouldn't be involved in that. That's huge, too.
Anybody?
more information.
More information,
Sure.
right?
I think I'm with Linda on this, is I would stay in it.
Just
You
for the
can-
municipal side.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
If you can get us more information, then maybe we'll have what do other towns do in regard to this? We need to get more information.
I have a little bit
What's
of
that?
information.
Stormwater in general. I think they're all over the map, to be honest.
I looked into this when I first got this bylaw email out of the blue, our bylaw, after the last
Yep.
meeting. I'm like, what's this for? And Shirley said, well, it has to do with us taking on stormwater management. And I thought she meant townwide. Because in the 90s,
Yeah.
late 90s, I was on conservation, and I went to an MACC meeting about stormwater erosion control, because back then the town was washing into the Atlantic. You think you have troubles now? You should have been here in the 90s. And so I got the speaker to come here, his name was Peter Coffin, and he brought bylaws, and oh boy, that room filled up. And they said conservation should not have this, needs to go to planning board. So after that, I said, well, that's dead in the water, and the speaker was very good. I was impressed. So I looked up his name. He lives in Mendon. He's on the Conservation Commission.
Oh, Peter, yeah.
And Peter Coffin,
Yeah.
and he was instrumental in speaking for the NIPD's permitting before it became anything. And he may come here again and speak, like to planning board, if we have a need for an erosion control bylaw in this town. So, because back then, I know it would never have passed
Yeah.
town meeting.
But I'm going to go back to that being a planning board
Correct.
and select board policy conversation about what goes on the warrant.
Yeah, I think,
What I was thinking about here is going back to, I'm repeating myself now, the significant asset under the control of the select board
That's right.
that is stormwater management. And from time to time, when we do any kind of project, whether it's a roadway project or a culvert replacement, handling stormwater becomes part of the project. And it should be in compliance with some set of standards as to,
So you're talking bylaw.
No.
no, yeah, I guess I'm just running out of things to say about it. I mean, I need to find a home for this issue.
Oh,
Right.
in the town of Mendon, if you go to their website, they have like 4 different things on stormwater management. They have a stormwater management committee. It's actually a
Okay.
pretty big thing in
And
Mendon.
the thing is,
Go to their
that might be the way to go.
Yes, yeah.
What we're put at a disadvantage, both Matt and I, and the zoning official Ken Frazier, and the Concom itself, as a whole, as a group, is we have lots of people who are very upset about the amount of water that's flowing onto their property. In many cases, it's flowing from public property, our roads, onto their land. And we don't have a clear set of guidance from the town of what it is you want us to do as day-to-day managers when we're confronted with these issues. We are grabbing pieces of authority from different places and trying to cobble together a strategy. And this is like one of the last boards it could go to, but when it comes to the specific issue of, is our system big enough for the demands put on it? Do we need a plan for gradual capital improvement to deal with stormwater because we already own it? We already have pipes in the ground, do we want to upgrade them? Where is that issue going to be resolved? Now, because the mandate for this committee is very broadly written, you could say there are pieces of that that could be discussed here. But I never intended for this to be a freewheeling conversation about the regulatory framework townwide, because that's not fit.
So Linda, how about you get us some information from Mendon Or we can go on their websites.
Yes, it's
Okay.
it's very easy.
If you will do that, please.
And,
It's not dated because of stormwater bylaw that's administered by its conservation commission.
Which is, yeah, I've heard that too, being one of the places for it.
Of course, that's a huge town, whereas Mendon
Yeah.
is compatible to us.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how far ahead they were in this, with all
Yeah.
the bylaws. Wow.
So for next meeting, if you would, please? Yes?
But they need more information.
And you will,
The thing is,
Well, no.
everybody gets nervous about open meetings, but open meetings is not quite as rigid as people think it is. If you find something that you think is interesting for the committee, you can send it to Matt or to me. It is a report. There's no deliberation. There's nothing being discussed. We can simply create not a repository of documents, but we can forward reports to you or things of interest to the members of the committee. It is up to you whether you read it or not. And then if you want to discuss any of those things, then you go through the chair to put it on the agenda, and those things can be put in the packet.
yep,
But reports are not covered by the Open Meetings Act. What you can't do, what you should not do, is forward it yourself to other members of the committee.
Correct.
Forward it to us, and we'll just send it out in a very bland message. Here are items of interest that have been identified that may help you with background knowledge on this topic. The problem with doing it yourself is that if somebody responds to you, now you're starting to talk amongst yourselves about something that should be in a public meeting, and that's not allowed. So the best way to handle reports is through the professional staff.
Yeah, but my problem is I don't have a computer or a printer at home, and I'm doing everything on my phone. It would be hard for me to forward everything.
Even if you just have a link, though.
I wouldn't even begin to know how to do that.
Okay,
ask Jen.
that might be an easy lesson.
So like I said, just go on the town of Mendon website, and it's right there.
Okay, everybody.
All right, yeah, we're thinking here.
Fred?
And there would also be no issue with you, like, sitting down with someone like myself who's pretty ignorant about a lot of these issues and explaining these are
Right.
what the issues are. I mean,
But I think Linda's brought up a good suggestion to check and see how it works with Mendon,
We're also talking
Peter
about,
Coffin, Peter, well, Linda knows Peter Coffin, I know
Well,
him.
It's been 35 years.
Yeah, true.
He came once.
Right, true.
the only other thing I'll say before we close out this issue
Yeah.
is that Matt is starting the master plan effort, and stormwater management will be a significant topic in the master plan.
Oh, good.
Yep,
So for those of you who want to engage in the master plan, that's where we got it.
that's good. All right, but again, find out what you can, and then we can take this up at least once more time. If not, take it on completely. All right, municipal sprinklers.
You skipped vacant buildings.
I'm
Vacant
sorry,
building.
I did, and I asked Jen, and she graciously did this. All the vacant buildings that we went to, I asked her to get info about the buildings and the land size, and she did. Thank you very much. So, discussion about the buildings. Let me hear some thoughts or comments. Yes, Fred?
I just did some research, and this is from an Insurance Institute organization. There are roughly 31,000 fires in vacant buildings annually, resulting in dozens of deaths, hundreds of firefighter injuries, and an average $642 million in property damage. When vacant buildings receive little or no attention or security, it can lead to problems such as vandals, fixtures being stolen, etc. So I think we need to move forward on a lot of this stuff sooner than later.
Excuse me. So, the first building we went to was the old fire station. Comments, info, whatever? What would you have information on them? a very small lot, and you have assessment field card info.
I have my notes here.
Yeah,
So obviously that tower needs to come down sooner than later before it falls and takes out the entire building and possibly hurt somebody. I'm just curious why the fascia board that's obviously missing, that's allowing bats and whatever, and the weather to get in there, why can't that just be repaired? I mean, why wasn't it, I'm not trying to lay blame or anything, to saying if something
No.
falls off of this building, the next day, somebody's gonna come and put it back on. But it's just because it's been off for so long, the reason why it hasn't been repaired? Does that make sense?
yeah,
Because it seems like a fairly simple repair to repair that fascia and peek in there and see what's actually happening with the rafters while it's, since it's been open for so long.
On the wooden part.
On the wooden part, yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, to me, it looks to me, other than the tower, which obviously needs to come down, the building's in decent,
for storage or,
yeah, decent shape for storage or whatever. I would think it would need, the utilities would need to be replaced, all the water pipes replaced, electrical replaced, and maybe insulate and do the walls or not. That's just my person. And then it seems in surprisingly decent shape, other than the tower.
The two towers, actually, the
yeah,
Metal one that was in the back.
right.
Right. What else do they have for that building?
Now, what would be needed for that project, Nat? I mean, you'd have to go through conservation or just highway
Yeah.
come and...
No, you're definitely working within 100 feet of a protected resource
Yeah.
there, so you would need some Concom interaction. But this is what I'm looking for, is this committee's consensus on what you're going to recommend.
Because
to-
it's
to
money.
basically use it to formulate a capital request for the capital committee. Because again, without a champion, there's no dialogue, and the projects don't get ranked, right? So this is helpful.
Could you answer why that fascia board can't just be replaced?
I'm not a builder, so I don't know what holds it up there, what it's tied into. It's a little bit up there, but I don't think that's that much of a challenge. People work up at that height all the time.
Right, but it doesn't have to be, why would it need to be approved or anything to be done? It obviously needs to be replaced. Why don't we just call our guy that does that and replace?
Is that something?
No, that question I have a very easy answer to. Why would we invest one dime in a building if we're not going to keep it?
Yeah.
So if the
No,
view of this
that's
committee
the-
is that that's not going to be torn
fire
down, so
station.
therefore, we need to prioritize repairs.
Right.
I have a hunch that we'll probably need a roof. I don't know that, but I'm just going to be able to replace the fascia board. We can do a temporary repair, but again, we feel the same way about highway, right? We got Green Communities grants to replace the lighting system inside the highway barn, which we declined. Because we think we're going to tear the building down. We're not going to waste
Yeah,
the state's money on it. So that's where we are with Cottage Street. I mean,
So wouldn't our house doctor be a good one to give us advice?
it's expensive advice.
Yes, but so would Joe's Carpentry.
If you,
Might be expensive to say.
let's see
"Oh,
where
yeah,
you
I
come out on all the buildings and what you prioritize before we go too
Okay.
far down into who's going to give
Yeah.
us thoughts
But
on it.
before we move on,
yeah.
would we say that we're in consensus, building needs to be saved? What do you want to vote on it? Just-
Just get some input here
I would say that building should be saved.
for anything in particular.
Storage,
Yeah.
it's being used for storage now, it's being used now.
Okay.
Um,
Bob? Ray? Yep. Okay. Consensus is unanimous.
And just the two towers,
Would you feel the same
Well, because the
way?
option's not to sell it, am I correct, or,
tear it down,
Yeah.
tear the wooden part.
yeah.
Right.
Is your answer the same if all that stuff that's stored in there
Is
is
elsewhere.
properly stored at the new highway barn,
Yeah.
a new, quote-unquote, a proposed new highway barn, or not? So if the
Yeah.
building were vacant,
Clearly, if we don't need the space, we don't need the space.
Yeah, agree.
But like, even for those boats.
But one's the fire department.
Those
But
are the
again-
and
Yeah.
police.
Fire department and highway, all that stuff in there.
Okay.
So again, if they had a proper home, what would you want done with that building?
I would rather see larger equipment stored at the new highway barn than like those
Hopefully it's
those
gonna
boats
cover
that were in
that,
the
too.
wood part. You know, that building could be used for smaller.
And that large truck looks like it hasn't even been, I don't know, has it even been started in years? Does it?
I'm sure they do.
that's the one that, is that the one that's going back?
Forestry one?
It's the great big.
No,
Yeah.
that one, no, we're actually, I think he's in the process of getting that brought back up
Okay.
to operational use. I get them confused. But that one, I believe, is an automatic transmission. It's an old military truck, so it can handle all kinds of terrain. And I think Chief Furno's intent is to have that
Okay.
roadworthy.
But it could possibly go to the new facility.
But that would be a much better place for it.
Yeah.
Why run 3 or 4 heating plants if we had an efficient new building with one heating plant for all of this equipment?
So should we just ask the other departments whether they need that space?
Or like the wood chipper, that could go in there once that truck is taken out.
So that's the big question. Do we even need it?
So again, when you're sitting down and discussing the new building, perhaps, or off to the side, if they need it, fire, police. If not, well, and it has a very small piece of land that it's on.
Yeah, it's less than a conforming lot
Yeah,
for the zone that it's in. And it's 20,000 square feet, and it's like 80.
yep.
You really don't need any outside parking.
Okay, so
I
we're
couldn't
good?
even answer a vote without knowing the answer to that question, so
Okay. So we'll bring that back one more time.
did somebody need to actively ask these departments?
Matt will, right? Or Matt Benoit, whoever. So the second building we went to was the old elementary school. You have notes, Fred?
Yeah. Can it just be simply give the property away to a developer that'll develop it with certain conditions to keep the character of the building? I understand that it was proposed that it was made housing, but somebody had an issue with housing close to the school, like who's going to live in this building? But we put schools in neighborhoods. Schools go in neighborhoods, and that's where the people are.
True.
So I don't think that needs to be a concern. So can it just be, isn't it a fairly common thing to give away is probably not the proper term, but
You're talking just the building or the land it's on too?
building and property, the building would stay to keep the character of the building. So the developer would have to give a proposal, this is what I plan on doing, and it'll have to be approved by whatever.
Ray, Bob, Linda?
Yes, I was looking at the property map. It shows that the street goes right by it.
The right of way.
School is part of that 1.2 acres. So that lot should not include the street. We'd have to redo the lot. Or they'd own the street too. No, we don't want to take the street away.
No, it's a right-of-way. It's a access driveway that's not a formal street.
Well, the yellow highlighted,
Right, I understand.
yeah.
Unless that was accepted as a public way. It doesn't have frontage in its landmark.
Well, accepting that as a public way wouldn't be a big issue. And then that, the frontage, looks like there'd probably be plenty of frontage then on our new way, which is reasonable.
Yep.
So I think it's-
We would want to think about resizing that lot if we were to go that way.
There was a committee just for that building,
Yeah.
and I think they actually looked for people to give proposals, and they didn't get anything back in or anything interesting. So is that the barrier? Is that, do we find that it's not even possible, or should it just be tried again?
Yeah, I think, did you say there was an individual that was sort of interested?
Yeah, but the proposed use is housing, so I think we discussed this while we were on the site visit. I haven't gotten to it yet. Is to go back to because this was discussed at town meetings before I worked here, so I don't
Right.
know what was said exactly. But if town meeting took a vote that would bind the select board to not sell this for housing, that would be something we would have to change,
Right.
because there won't be any interest in this building. There hasn't been, put it this way, any interest in this building for any use other than housing. I can't say it won't be any other use, but to this point, there hasn't been. The status of the road is important, as is the size of the lot, to make it an attractive parcel for anyone to purchase and redevelop.
You need parking.
And you would need parking. The town owns some of the land across Police and Court on the other side. Some of it's wet, I'm sure. Some of it may not be too bad. I don't see the point, but that doesn't mean that other people don't have a strong point of view that they feel they can defend. To me, it's all pure speculation about who's going to live where. I mean, there are homes all around school buildings, and there is a control, actually. If you're a registered offender, you cannot live within a certain distance of a school. But the limits on those people's freedom ends at whatever the statute says. So I think this building is more than close enough to the primary school where it would rule out most of the people that you think you're afraid of. But if that fear controlled the opinion of either the independent committee or town meeting, then it constrains what we're able to do. Now, let's say in the alternative, that wasn't actually a formal vote, it was just an opinions expressed on the floor at town meeting, and there isn't anything binding us, then the way we could go about it, since a party did express interest, would be to follow Chapter 30B, disposition of real estate, and we would basically list it with a floor value. We won't entertain any bid below X. And then what we would need to do, at least if this party were the successful bidder, is come up with a plan for the taxation of the building that followed the construction and improvement plan. So what people have to realize is that somebody might pick up this building and develop it, but it's not going to be their priority development, just because it won't have the return on investment that many other projects will have. So it's still going to make money for them, there's no doubt, but they might take 3 years to do it instead of a year, because it's just not going to be a winner chicken dinner. It's not going to be a 20% return on their investment. It might be less. So if we're going to have a partner like that, we have to be willing to engage in that conversation. The last time somebody made a bid, gave us $10,000 of earnest money, it was the same kind of conversation. It was, low-income housing tax credit and some of the other credits that can be marketized and sold to finance a project like this. And they just took so gosh darn long to do it that we kept their earnest money and released them from P&S. It was, you want to think about this. I don't know if you follow events in this community, but to remind you, I was the Economic Development Director in the city of Woonsocket, when the city was going through trouble. There are two absolutely gorgeous mill buildings down by the river, and they are some of the oldest mill buildings in the city of Woonsocket. It was a rubber factory that was
Yep.
made for dryers, old-fashioned, and that project just got launched. Joe Gollert just announced he's going to do a project, he's going to call it Mill Race, and he's developing it for low-income housing. He was talking about that when I was working there 12 years ago. He took possession of those buildings.
Oh, my God.
For 12 years. They've been sitting out there just deteriorating, and he finally got his financing lined up. So working with some of these people, they get their projects done, but it takes forever. I would rather deal with somebody who's his or her own bank, right? And they come in and they say, all right, we'll buy it for 50 grand, but, you're going to tax me on 50 grand. Because that's all you thought it was worth, that's what you sold it to me for, and as I develop the building, then my tax value will catch up. Would take a special, basically not really tax increment financing, but a tax treaty type approach.
That was my next note. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else the town could do to increase the appeal, other than?
We have to redraw the lot line, right? So it's irrational for it to be where it is right now. Nobody would buy it there. We've done most of the removal. I don't think there's a heck of a lot in there that, well, I guess there's lead paint, right? We've got to get that, I think we have all that data. Just transfer that data to a publicly available source. I don't know that it's a good deal for the town to do the repointing on our own. Because first of all, it's not a lot that needs to be done. And it's expensive. Masons are expensive. So I would say we would sell the building as is and work that into a tax treaty. I don't know that I would. The roof is sound and that, I mean, the old boiler's gone.
Yeah,
A lot of the troublesome stuff has been removed.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't just use regular cement for that grout either. You have to use lime mortar.
Yeah, I had this conversation with a historical preservation guy once, some fancy red sand from one of the moons of Mars or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think at town meeting there was any vote taken as to any kind of disposition. I think it just went to that committee, which did a lot of hard work, but it
They
just.
did.
But it went nowhere. 'Cause-
They were in a bad market. I mean, they had a tough market.
Yes, yes.
At a time when nobody was building anything, they were trying to sell an old school building. That's really tough
Yeah.
mandate. Yeah. We're in different times now.
But
So,
that one didn't seem to need anything to keep it from deteriorating further, other than the pointing, but that's not something that needs to be done right away.
so again, your thoughts, your input, what do you think should be done with it, or what?
Sell it.
So, sell it, but with conditions as to maintain the character of the building.
This historic tax credits. We did this in Auburn. Penrose company came in and took 2 schools and applied for historic tax credits for those. That helped them get their funding for affordable housing. But those had frontage on a way, so it's going to be contingent on that road becoming public.
Okay.
Yes. Otherwise, there's no zoning that it's going to allow.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
We done that? Okay. You had mentioned there was property across that way. And on map, it says Town of Douglas inhabitation. What does that mean? Because, you know, if it helps to throw in that lot too. I don't know what the word inhabitation is referencing.
I believe that is an old-timey
Huh.
way of saying that we took it for tax.
Oh.
You know, we foreclosed.
That's two, it says 2.17 acres there, which would help.
I don't have that lot
the-
card.
Whoever got it needed parking. There is a wetland, it wouldn't be, it might only be 1 acre, the park.
At one point, there was a garage
Yes.
back there. And
When was this?
bless you. This
I mean,
was,
you're making my head hurt now. There was a structure, I mean, it's like bittersweet
and what did they
sumac.
call, because it was oil, it was a, they had a name for it, contamination of brownfield site. I'm not saying it's that one, but it's in that vicinity. There was a brownfield site.
John Furno might remember it.
Yeah.
So if there's, does that mean there was a EULA? Well, I guess we have some homework to do on the vacant lot.
Yeah.
It was in back the Methodist Church.
Remember it was a gray color. I think it was blue.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we need to, yeah, in order to
Okay.
do anything, yeah. All right.
So we said the lot needs to be redrawn and the zoning, whatever.
And we need to look and see,
The status of police in court.
yeah.
So how do we make that happen?
Needed design, an engineer would have to draw it out in
To lay out the
in our
road.
plan to lay out the roadway, and then we'd have to have it accepted at town meetings, both way exception.
So you know for a fact that it is not, has never been accepted?
No.
Okay.
Police and court only goes to a certain point, and then the extension of the roadway is just an internal driveway to get to the school.
But going to that certain point, that was never accepted. Is what you're saying, okay.
And there,
I don't want to fully flesh this issue out now because it's already 5:30, but
Yep, we need to,
this is a more weighty consideration for the school committee. Because if it becomes a public way, then the public has the absolute right to pass and repass over it. And right now, it's a driveway which they control. They control the flow of traffic, they can control access, because it's their, basically it's their driveway. If it becomes a public way, there's things you can't do anymore. You can't put a gate across it and say you can't pass.
I mean, could you stop the public way at the back
You
of the
could.
building or something like
At
that?
where the school is,
Leave the driveway
The
to
grammar
the school.
because we do use it for,
We do dead ends all the time, that's not an issue.
yep,
I mean, it's used for the post office.
And then that's the Board of Selectmen that accepts them as a public way.
town meeting.
Yeah, the selectmen have to push
The
it.
selectmen have to accept the layout, but town meeting accepts the road.
Yeah, because the road could be shortened, it doesn't have to go all the way up to the school.
Well, who maintains the road now? Or the right of way?
Town,
We,
Right, so
Yeah.
it's not going to cost any more.
no, it's not going to cost it.
so the things you say that need to be done, the engineering, is that all done in-house or is there a cost involved?
Surveying,
okay.
the Mylars, et cetera.
So we need more information on that building and plot,
Actually, the lot, pretty
the
much.
plot, yeah. Okay, and then just to move on here, the assessment field card on the little school up at Douglas Town and the plot that it's on, which is 1.59 acres. It was the VFW. And right now, again, another empty building. You have notes, Fred?
Just I know off the top of my head, that one needs work in the basement to keep the water from coming in, so that needs deteriorating further and perhaps getting mold if water gets in there. Other than that, I consider it the same as the other school building. Which could be used for housing or professional building while keeping the character of the building.
So sell it.
Sell it. Get it back on the tax rolls.
Yeah, sell it, Bob?
But
Right?
do you need to maintain the integrity of the building? It was built in 1920. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Just the character.
Yeah, but would it be easier sold if they could raise the building and just build something else?
I guess I'm putting my personal preference. in there. Yeah. Saying,
Yeah.
you know, I'd rather,
I don't care one way or the other if it's sold and they, tear the building down. I prefer,
I'd like to see the town's input as to whether, before it was, I would never recommend it be torn down without asking the town what they thought.
Yeah.
well, I wouldn't say tear it down, but I'm saying if we sold it to someone.
Yeah.
They could tear it
Right.
down all they want, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And that would be including the little house next door?
That is already marked for demolition.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we didn't get any layout.
Well, I think it's because it was marked for
No,
demolition.
I mean, that's already marked because
Can you-
it's in
can you sell
bad
that
shape,
as one
right?
property?
Well, then you have that right away to the soccer fields. That might affect that.
Affect the red house or this?
It's selling it, like he said, as one property.
I mean, there's not much land with that house, is there?
No, but that was bought with the intent of it being part of the cemetery, no?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, that's what I thought we purchased
Yeah, I
it
think
for.
so. But, again, research. I thought it was for the cemetery. Okay, uh-oh.
Comp check, it's 5:30.
When we purchased it, would it have been at a town meeting,
Yeah,
purchased
I
it?
think so.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
So the intent.
But I think that was like right before I started working here,
Yeah.
2016, 2017.
I mean,
think
why
so.
would we ever purchase a hazardous building except to use it for the purpose of the cemetery? That's what I thought.
Well, it eliminated a little piece of private property in between
Yeah.
the cemetery and that much bigger parcel. The old VFW building
Yeah,
is only a small part of what the
Right.
town owns there. So that really made it possible to consolidate all of it. You can imagine 1,000,001 uses that would benefit both the cemetery and, it's just you do have an organization in town that raised and spent a fair amount of money building that soccer field. So access to that is something that you'd have to talk, at least at town meeting. Well, all interest in real property has to go to town meeting anyway, but I think that's where you're going to have to consult with people. But what I was hoping the committee would arrive at a consensus is whether or not, I mean, there's nothing that stops us from tearing it down. That building's
Except money.
mostly remediated. The little brown building's going to need a bigger, it might even cost more to take the stupid little
Yeah.
brown house down than the old school.
Yeah.
because
But-
it's got asbestos and everything in it.
You've got only so many historic sites in town, and that building does qualify, it's very old.
Which
So,
one? Brown or?
The old school.
Okay.
So I don't want to be the one who says it one way or the other. It has to be the townspeople that say, do you want to tear it down or not? If we tear it down,
Yep.
I
fine.
actually, I'm in the same boat.
Is that
But,
yours, Matt?
No, we
Okay.
deal with it. That's a decision for the town to make, whether you want to keep that building or not.
Which
But
is
we
the,
currently insure it
School.
with Lloyds of London, they're the only ones who will write us a policy on it.
So the brown
Fred?
house is already scheduled to be,
It's never made it in the capital process to
Yeah.
a high enough priority. So the
It
other
should be
piece,
torn down just
It-
for
absolutely.
safety,
Yeah.
for safety or,
yeah. I think it would be of some benefit to the capital committee if you guys took a formal vote and said, well, we've investigated this and we really think this should get a higher score than it has in the past because there are safety and liability concerns. And the capital committee could rely upon that just to rescore it and whether or not it makes the grade for use of funds.
Which is meeting tomorrow.
Starting to meet tomorrow, I think
Yeah.
we'll probably meet more than once before town meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
So-
looking for a motion
For the red building,
for the Brown House?
oh, the school, oh, the Brown House. I'm
The Brown
sorry,
House.
Brown House. Sure.
Help me out with this.
a motion to destroy? No.
Those are fun, you don't have to make those too often.
Is it, would it, so make motion that we recommend to the capital committee that do I say 25823? Is that lot number? Is that, looking at this
I don't have it on, but if that's what you,
on this one?
Yeah, it does say 25823.
Is that the lot number, or it says 25823 SFC?
yep.
Or is that just the square footage? Because if you look at next to
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah, that's right.
36589.
So, all right, so I don't know how
But
to, there's like no address.
I don't have,
Oh, yeah, square foot.
There's an address.
Yeah, it's 19 Main Street. Because that's
19
21
Oh, yeah,
Main Street.
okay,
Yeah,
I
so it's
see,
19 Main Street.
got it?
So the Brown House had
19 Main Street.
and the small outbuilding behind it should be raised for safety concerns.
I second.
Motion made by Fred, seconded by Ray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay, Brown House recommended to be torn down. And we have one more building, and that, and land, which was the 104 Main Street, and this is part of the pipeline, the old pipeline. It's owned now by the town of Douglas, which Water Sewer, I believe, put money into also.
Have these if you want.
Yeah. There's the total acres of 49.68 acres, with some buildings on it, not in the best of shape, but mildew.
And there's really not a lot you can do with that land,
Yeah.
is there?
Well, they bought it, they put, Water Sewer, I believe, Water Department put money in to
So I'm gonna-
preserve the,
Besides solar or something like that, besides,
that's what he
here's-
said.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't want anybody to accuse me of not being creative.
Oh, stop.
Here's my thought. If you want a recommendation, if all I'm doing is talk about conceptual conversation, I don't know any of the
Sure.
technical ins and outs of any of this. If I could, what would I do with it? I would tear the buildings down. I would put sufficient energy storage capacity on the property to power charging stations for school buses. And I would move Telstone from the high school parking lot to the center of town. And we would be supportive of this with them, right? We would try to build the infrastructure.
What's Telstone?
The bus company that runs the school buses in Douglas, and a couple other towns. But just the Douglas fleet, 12 buses, and some remainder of that property, maybe 5 or 6 acres, could probably be put into solar, and one of those battery arrays could probably just take up the power from that solar. I don't know what they're going to do to us in Boston. we are on a time frame to get to the point where we're not dependent on fossil fuels anymore. I love renewable energy just because I'm frugal, not because I necessarily think I can save the world myself, but because it makes a lot of sense. Sunlight is free, and we're generating a tremendous amount of solar energy here in Douglas already with all the arrays that have been built. Once it goes into the grid, it's kind of like anonymous, right? It's all mixed in with the other electricity that's in the grid. But battery arrays benefit from the Dover Amendment the same way solar arrays do. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can do in terms of not having to worry about zoning or any of the rest of it. The biggest polluters we have in terms of vehicles in this town are definitely the big yellows. Just no doubt about it. We probably have one truck at Highway that puts out more toxic fumes than anything else, but we're getting rid of that. So now, if the next generation, school buses are perfect for charging because they run, then they sit idle all day, then they run again, then they sit idle all night. That facility back there has a fence around it. There's a whole bunch of things that make it attractive. And three-phase power is already all the way to the transformer that's next to the existing building. So there's a lot of what would need to be built out is already in existence.
And you don't have to cut any trees down.
And you probably wouldn't have to cut any trees down. You might have to take out some of the tall pines on the hillside, depending on where you put the solar panels to make it make sense. But it's already cleared, you're right. There's some stuff up in the front that we never want to dig in, and so we would be able to sequester that forever and not disturb that soil.
Can the frontage be used as it is besides that driveway that kind of meanders between the housing? Can that frontage be used for an entrance and exit for school busing and?
We'd probably have those technical, like I say, I'm conceptually putting it out there.
Like, is it wetlands or something there that would preclude you from?
There's actually an entrance here, that's a larger,
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's the other side of that property, yeah.
there's that little narrow strip, but then more towards the wetland. There's
I like solving multiple problems with one thing. The bus company has approached me several times to try to relocate. They want to stay in Douglas.
And get out of the high school.
Right, so that means they domicile their buses in Douglas, they pay excise, whatever, the whole bunch of things that go with that. It's a business, it's a small family business, they've been very good to us. We like working with them. I think they're scared to death of being pushed to chargeable buses because they're extremely expensive. But they don't even know where they would charge them. I mean, if we came in with that solution, we might be able to get a grant, slowly convert the fleet over a course of many years, but it would put us in a better spot than we're in.
Is that a situation where the town could own some of the busing?
Well, no, but we'd own all the charging infrastructure. We wouldn't
Okay.
have to limit to only enough facilities for the bus fleet. So now you're getting me real crazy because this hasn't been done in a really long time. There is an entity called Municipal Power and Light and a statutory framework for creating such an entity. And that entity can borrow, it's run like an enterprise fund, just like water and sewer is. Many communities in eastern Massachusetts have Power and Light, and it's a godsend. But they're using fossil fuels, right?
Yeah.
What if we were one of the first communities that formed Power and Light to create and manage renewable assets that were used for the benefit of the town and so-called microgrids and other forward-thinking things? Again, I don't necessarily come at this the same direction as a lot of people, a lot of policymakers do. My fear for the town is that you're going to end up at very low on the priority list for National Grid and their upgrades that are necessary to accommodate the future of energy. So if you want to stay competitive and you want to be able to continue to provide streetlights and, if everybody's pushed to electric vehicles, sufficient charging facilities, you may find yourself having to do it yourself. So we should at least have a conversation about what that would cost and whether or not you could earn enough revenues to make it a viable enterprise fund for the town,
Basically pays for itself.
because you can control it. And you wouldn't be waiting for Grid to say, well, that substation's $8 million, and all you ratepayers, you're gonna pay for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have no control over it, and be told, the way we've been told, that all the wires are full and there's no way to put any more electricity on these wires. Well, if you took control of it and you used it for your own self, you'd be in control of your own destiny.
So do we have to?
That's my far out there idea.
Is the next step for us with this property, though, is to
How would you prepare it for
a
that?
motion to,
Demolish the building and to request that
for conceptual,
the select board investigate the potential for municipal power and light or other uses of that property. I think, though, it is well within your bailiwick to recommend the tear down of the building. I couldn't tolerate being in there for
No.
more than 10 seconds.
so a
So
motion
mold
for
in
tear down of 104 Main Street
Yeah.
Yeah.
And outbuildings.
and outbuildings, excuse me. So I make a motion to tear down the buildings at 104 Main Street and the
Ray
outbuildings.
made the motion. Do I hear a second? Bob, second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay.
I just don't
Yep.
think it's as high as priority as the Brown House.
Right.
Right.
Because it is
Yeah,
safer
it's
because of the
secured,
fence
yeah.
and the.
Not only the Brown House, but then the towers. Then we did not vote on the towers at the fire station, which are,
If you want a thought, I think those towers are your number one priority, because
yeah,
we
they're
can't see
very,
back there, and kids play over there all the time, and kids have broken into Cottage Street.
anybody want to make a
old
motion for
fire
the
tower.
towers?
Motion to destroy the fire, the
Three
towers.
motions to
The
destroy
towers.
in one
Yeah, I
day.
know.
Destroy. Who was that? Was that like Godzilla or King
Ray
Kong?
made the
Well,
motion.
could we add to the motion, remove the towers and stabilize the building in anticipation of being used in the future? Or should, like, the repairs of that fascia be something completely separate?
Probably separate, no?
What do you think, Matt?
I think it's separate, because
Yeah.
removing the towers is something we can do.
Yeah.
Then stabilizing the building is a kind of a question whether the town votes to build a new highway barn or not.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you do need that storage space for what's in there.
I'd like to see that fascia board be replaced. It would take a carpenter an afternoon.
Oh, so we assume, though.
You know what?
Pretty,
Right, there's no structural.
right. if you-
Why don't
well,
I run it by
Adam?
Matt,
Adam
Yeah.
and see if he can have somebody take a quick look at it?
Okay. So, but,
So we just leave that, let that sit. That's going to happen.
Let's just report back to you at your next meeting on it.
Okay.
But the towers, you
the
should.
towers we need to.
Sorry to interrupt your,
Yeah.
No.
So Ray, you made the motion to take down the towers at the old fire station?
Correct.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Unanimous. Okay.
Now, do you mind terribly?
No, just if you
Journey?
can tell me municipal sprinklers
It'll be 8 o'clock, I'm coming
briefly,
home.
and electrical charge replacements, anything in particular?
So the sprinkler stuff, I think, is way too premature to be on your agenda
Yeah.
discussion. With charging stations, as you know, I got permission from the state to rip and
Yeah.
replace. I will be asking the capital committee
Okay,
as a capital request. The expediter that works with us on our green communities has also been working with us on chargers.
good.
They have identified the opportunity to install several level 3 chargers. Those are the rapid chargers that Tesla owners
Good.
typically use.
Yeah,
I can't see putting them here because we would have to upgrade the electricity of this full building, but I asked the superintendent of schools if they would be interested in having chargers at the school buildings for their staff, and he has indicated he is interested. So that's a very preliminary conversation. We would need
Okay.
to push that a little bit further. National Grid is providing really significant incentives for level 3 chargers. So we could get 3 stations for 10 grand.
yeah,
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
The same inquiry, though, how much power is going into the school building? Chances are a whole heck of a lot more than comes into this one,
yeah.
and might be able to accommodate that.
So which school would that be at? Do you have any idea?
I don't really know where the transformers are exactly. I actually think there's one for each campus.
Okay.
You know, if you had to ask me,
You can let us know next.
there are some parking spots that are already reserved. They don't have any chargers, but they've reserved spots for electric vehicles. It would make sense almost that the chargers go along that wall, and I believe that is the elementary
Okay,
building,
okay.
but
But,
that'd be their choice. That's
Yes,
their
yes.
domain. They would
Yeah.
choose where they want.
but we would still have the chargers here too.
One of the level twos.
Yeah. All right, anything else? ARPA funding is still on target for
If my
depot.
wife calls, I'm giving the phone to you. He's sitting right next to me doing, work. No, the ARPA stuff we haven't.
Okay,
I'm sympathetic to Bob Sullivan trying to get his project done.
yeah,
That sewer pump station's driving him berserk, and before I push him too hard, he knows he has
are we
to do it.
having problems with the sewer pump station?
Well, there's a lot of water around,
Yeah,
so when you drive by the dam on Gilboa, if you see a red light flashing, that means that pump station needs help.
ooh, okay,
So I've seen that frequently, actually.
So you'll also notice a truck is standing there
Yes.
pumping it out,
Yeah.
yeah.
which is what we do.
All right, we do not have minutes at this meeting, hopefully the next meeting. We have an upcoming meeting, February 21st and March 20th. Please let me know if you will not be able to attend, and again, it's at 4
I
o'clock.
will not be present at the 21st. February 21st.
By Zoom, no?
I may,
That's all right, I
yeah,
just
have a
questioned.
meeting in Austin, Texas that week scheduled, actually today, so.
Okay. If there's no further issues or conversation, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved at 5:50?
Second.
Motion made by Linda, seconded by Fred. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry to keep everybody so long, but we do have a